year ago, Kendrick Lamar released GNX, and the rap game hasn't felt the same since. Now the dust is settled, so let's take a real look at its influence, its message, and whether it deserves the title of modern classic.
1 year later is Kendrick Lamar's
GNX is one of, it's not just a classic album.
That's the question.
Group of people out there who may not have liked the GNX album.
Kendrick's voice is annoying.
Kendrick, if you're watching this, it wasn't nothing personal. It wasn't nothing personal.
It's one of Kendrick Lamar's most classic albums.
People, as it pertains to this subject, has it been long enough for it to even be considered as a classic?
What elements of GNX, the storytelling, the production, the cultural weight, actually make it worthy of being called a classic?
Is GNX a hip-hop classic? We'll start with you, Low.
What you mean?
We knew there was an album coming. We had that information. We knew there was a Kendrick album coming in 2025. Took up all the attention in hip-hop, and quite frankly, after Kendrick was crowned the winner.
I like GNX, but Mr. Morale, for some reason, the overlooked capsule in Kendrick's career.
Kendrick came off of the battle of the century, you feel me? After demolishing Drake, you know what I mean, changing the trajectory of how we viewed his career forever.
I can't call something a classic after a year. That's just not, I can't really do that.
Classic really goes, in my opinion, to a lot of other things. It goes cultural impact.
The first album after that crazy battle, and I was ready to just stop. I just want to stop. I just want to stop and go to sleep.
The album was less of an all-out attack or an onslaught, and more of a where does Kendrick go for here?
Fans say GNX is a classic, but is it really? And what specific parts of this album earned it that status a year later?
Kendrick harnessed the energy, harnessed everything that was going on and put it into a project. So even though Not Like Us isn't on GNX, it's a part of the GNX era.
Every classic album it makes a statement at a time where those type of statements are either not common or they're more challenging to make in the moment. And I feel like GNX being so unapologetically black.
I think because music is subjective, sometimes you got certain moods. And while an album can be a classic, if I'm not in the mood to hear a certain song, I'm not going to listen to it.
What did Kendrick Lamar do on GNX that no other rapper touched in the last decade? Was it the storytelling, the cinematic production, the raw vulnerability, or the way he pushed the boundaries of hip-hop itself? A year later, it still feels like an instant classic. So today, we're breaking down exactly why GNX stands in a league of its own.
The Super Bowl goes into the GNX. The Grammys goes into the GNX. We have now things that people say all the time. The mustard, all the different things that come from the GNX album.
Kendrick reaching his height, obtaining that car or the premium version of that car and centering his album around it. You see what I'm saying? It still roots you in something, right?
You were able to take 2 years off, come back with your album, and it was all good. And you had a classic. If it stood the test of time between when it was released to the next one, it was considered a classic.
It damn near has changed vocabulary of people. I see way more people saying whooping feet ever since GNX dropped. I see way more people saying squabble up ever since the GNX album dropped.
How did GNX go from a bold release to a modern classic in just 1 year? What was it about Kendrick Lamar's vision, the storytelling, the production, the cultural impact that made this album grow louder, deeper, and more respected with time? Today, we're diving into how GNX transformed from a daring drop into one of the most talked about projects of the decade.
Come on, brother. No deluxe. Boy just randomly dropped that snippet, Bodies, and then just pretend like he was going to drop it, didn't perform at the Super Bowl, didn't care.
In today's landscape, if you can release an album in November of 2024 and people are still playing it in November of 2025, then you have a very strong case of a classic on your hands.
It seems like my man Low Key is the only person from the planet of Contraire. You know what I mean?
GNX to me is one of the most classic albums because if you really even think of the era that Good Kid, Mad City came out, there was still kind of That was still pre, like, when streaming blew up, blew up.
1 year later, GNX isn't just aging well, it's dominating conversations across the rap world and beyond. Fans, critics, and even casual listeners are still dissecting every verse, every beat, every cinematic moment. So how did Kendrick Lamar take a bold, ambitious album and turn it into a modern classic in record time? Today, we're diving deep into the artistry, the impact, and the moments that made GNX unforgettable.
So many questions were answered because people were like, what is he going to do after the battle? Is he going to fill up the void? Does he have it in him to make these commercial songs? All that stuff that they trying to preach right now about, oh man, it's so boring.
Very rare Ebro dub. Very rare collectible Ebro dub. Now listen, man, low key, you bugging out, brother. You was bugging out. What are you talking about longevity?
I can make the argument that it's still the GNX era, but Kendrick is kind of like quiet more now, just doing tours and doing shows and stuff like that. But like the amount of records he broke
in that same category, I think the people who have the strongest case for a 2025 classic, you're going to have Kendrick Lamar, GNX.
How did GNX level up from a bold, highly anticipated drop to a certified modern classic in just a year? Was it Kendrick Lamar's storytelling, the flawless production, or the way every track hit with cultural weight and precision? Today, we're breaking down the standout moments, the bars, and the genius behind the album that made GNX truly unstoppable and cemented Kendrick's place in hip-hop history.
Glasses Malone says GNX equals hip-hop's Thriller.
Probably the biggest star to come out of GNX outside of Kendrick is AZ.
In the features, all the new West Coast artists featured on the album, LA artists,
I wouldn't say a rebrand, but a reinvention that Kendrick undertook on this album and still gave you glimpses of who he was in years past.
What a classic album was, like, stop it, bro. I remember being a kid and hearing Life After Death for the first time.
But I just remember the terrible claymation. It wasn't terrible at the time, but it was still showing you how legendary, how global, how once in a lifetime Michael Jackson was.
What did Kendrick Lamar pack into GNX that turned it from a bold release into a legacy-defining classic in just 1 year? Was it the razor-sharp storytelling, the fearless production choices, the cultural weight behind every line, or the way he pushed hip-hop into new territory? Whatever it was, GNX didn't just grow, it exploded, evolving into one of the most talked-about albums of our era. Today, we're breaking down exactly how Kendrick crafted a project that became a classic in record time.
And another reason why I think that this is it has to be considered a classic, and again, it may not be a classic to you.
Cool, but that's fine. That's fine. You like the song or not? He's embracing people with flaws to hopefully try to change them, and that's exactly what Hitter was saying.
And so for me, the substance is all there. You had the hits, you had the joints, and he's still rapping on all the joints. You had the joints that squabble up. Lyrics is dope that make you want to move. You know what I'm saying? TV off.
Every song on Dedication 1 through 4, good? No. I know he has others behind that, beyond that. I don't even acknowledge those.
Chains and Whips with best rap performance, that we ain't gonna count that because that's Let God Sort Him Out, which I believe Let God Sort Him Out is gonna win Rap Album of the Year. Best melodic performance with Luther. Come on, bro.
Thriller, 7 out of the 9 songs became top 10 hits. I'm just giving these numbers because it's interesting of the overlaps. GNX, all 12 songs hit the Hot 100.
12 months later, the impact speaks for itself. GNX is a classic. No debate needed. The replay value is undeniable. The storytelling still hits, and the conversations around this album haven't slowed down for a single day. Kendrick didn't just make music, he made a statement that's aging like fine art.
This album, to me, is arguably Kendrick's most impactful album.
GNX, he has 9 overall, but GNX related, he has 7 GNX related nominations. So that's, to me, again, that's the gravy on top of already having a dope album.
When I first heard him, honestly, no. And I think that also is what makes me such a huge fan, is how tremendously he grew.
I just think that with GNX, it was a great delivery. You know what I'm saying? It was a great delivery. Everything lined up correctly from the, the album, the timing of the album, because we was like, oh, everybody, Kendrick was gonna drop next year when he does the Super Bowl, but then that would have made him eligible for 2027.
My final thoughts are this. Sometimes we're so married to nostalgia that we won't even entertain the conversation. Sometimes we think it's such West Coast bias. Sometimes we think it's such regional bias, I should say, in general.